I'm Colin. What's your name?
Tom, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too, Tom. I'll forget your name. It's okay. So how many people here don't know how to set up their project in RCOS? Him and some other people. Okay, so I'll do this, and then I'll do GitHub, and then I'll show you how to link them. And then if people are still with me, we might use GitHub. So this is RCOS. It's pretty identical to the actual RCOS page, except there's this colored thing here. That's missing here because none of the demo projects have a screenshot posted. And if they did, it would show up. So if you want to be on the front page of RCOS.rpi.edu, post a screenshot. So I'm some new guy, and I want to make a project. So I go to register or log in. I register. My email address is Colin@rpi.edu. That's simple to spell. My first name is Colin. Last name is Rice. My password is password. Password is getting password. What is that? All. Weird. Right, register. So how many people was that completely new to? Okay, so you're going to go do that later, or right now. Yeah, do that right now. And then that might not dump you on the project page, so click projects, and then hit add a project. It'll ask you for your title. So I guess I'm working on skeleton this semester, so I will put in skeleton. I don't have a website yet, so I'm lazy. Blah. Skeleton is for Mardi Gras, which is Spanish, right? And you hit next step. I guess actually has to be a website. And then they ask you for a bunch of this stuff. You should probably enter this stuff on the left-hand side. And initially, if you don't know what this is, just put in google.com. It won't break anything, I swear. And then want a blog web address. I'm lazy, so I always hit let RCOS host my blog. And huzzah, I have a project. Is anyone confused by any of that? Did anyone think I went through that too fast? Does anyone feel like I'm talking in a really patronizing tone of voice? I'm not trying to. I'm sorry. I'll try and be more empathetic. Okay. Right, so this is a project, right? And if you're applying to RCOS, you want me to write a blog proposal. And it's actually really horrible to figure out how to write a blog proposal on this interface. So I forgot to add a button down here. It's like add a blog post. I'll add that later, as well as fix like Matt Z and Kelly's project blog polling. I updated feed person. I think I broke the whole external blog system. So your external blog post gets pulled like 5 million times. It's a little problem. So what you do is you go to Modify. It gives you all the details of your blog or of your project. If you go to Blog, you write a post. So this is skeleton project proposal. I'm going to rock Mardi Gras harder than it's ever. I can spell too. Rocked before. What you should actually put in here is a description, a set of goals, like things you can do, and then like a timeline. We acknowledge that the timeline is to some degree sketchy at best. But this is going to happen for the rest of your life. They're going to be like, we want you to write some software or hardware or whatever. And you'll be like, okay, I can do that. And you're like, how long will it take? And you'll be like, well, probably before the death of the universe, and probably after now, and anywhere in between there's a guess, and I have no idea how accurate it will be. So we're sort of trying to train you to at least bullshit guesses that you can meet. So lowballing, if at all possible. And you hit post, and you get it. If you want to do some awesome stuff, you can edit the post, which is one useful. This is all Markdown formatted, so if I want to be really badass and I remember my Markdown, if I go like this, it'll like put in bold, right? And you can put images in here. I think it's something along the lines of image, and then you go like google.com/bad-icon.echo. Maybe there's like a description or something. I can't remember my Markdown syntax. That's not it. If you really want it, look it up. Or bug me after the meeting and I'll pull up the specs for you. So everyone understands how to write a blog post. You know that if you want it to look pretty, you can go read about Markdown, which is sort of cool. Okay, is anyone lost? Guy in the back is lost.
Yeah.
So where are you lost? Writing the blog post, making the project, Markdown?
Start writing a post, a blog post.
Okay, so like what you should put in it, or like the actual act of getting the screen to write it?
The actual like writing it.
Okay, so I've done a bunch of these. A, we're not going to yell if you screw it up. Just write it. If it's wrong, we'll be like, hey, you should add a timeline. So, for example, if I was making this and it's a Mardi Gras party tracking website, I should say under my description that this is a website to track Mardi Gras parties. And then what I want, so I want a basic website, you know, logos, some CSS, some pretty pictures. So that's the first thing I want. I can be fancy, I can do space dash space. And then the next thing I want is ability for users to add parties to the website. Because if they can't add parties, no one can track them, right? And then display a list of parties, right? And so these are 3 goals. You know, they sound reasonable goals for a semester, right? Anyone here think I'm vastly overreaching? And if you want, you can add a bunch of other stuff, like get Microsoft to buy my website. It's probably not the best goal for RCOS being it's all open source, but it's possible. And then you want a timeline. So you can say that I think, you know, the first goal will take 10 weeks, and I'll do the next 3 in a weekend. This is obviously a horrible, horrible timeline, but this is what we want. We just want you to sort of estimate how long you're just going to go. Do it down by weeks. We don't want, oh, by Tuesday the 17th, I'll have had this done. By this, I'll have that done. We're not that interested. We just want you to sort of estimate your time. Because a lot of times you'll get people who haven't done this stuff before, and they'll think, oh, you know, building a basic website take me 2 days, and then it'll take me 10 weeks to add a list of parties, or to let users add parties, and then I'll do showing the list in like 3 days. And be like, well, you know, showing the list is simpler than adding parties, but it's not that much simpler. And you'll probably discover bugs in the other things, so you should like split it 5 weeks, stuff like that. So this is really just for us to double check that you don't think certain things are trivial. Right? So does that answer your question?
I guess my original question is, how do you go to that page?
Oh, so did you walk in late or?
Yes.
So, hey, I'll just make another one. So I registered on this website. If you're confused about how, you click here, and rather than going to your post, it'll go to a little page where you can register, enter your name, email, that sort of thing. And then you click on projects, take you to projects. You can add a project, put in your title, so skeleton v2, website, google.com, description. If you're here in the beginning, if you don't know what these are, just fill them in with google.com. For the blog web address, if you're just starting out, just hit the create a blog, so we'll host it for you. And so this will get dump you to your project page. Want to get here from anything else? Go projects, go proposals, click on skeleton v2. They'll pull you in. So if you're logged in, you want to write a blog post, and it's hosted by RCOS. Go to blog, hit write a post, fill it in with what you want. So this is how I got to that screen. Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Oh, and I guess we have a little link from that thing. So that's that. That's how you set it up. I'm going to jump over to GitHub and show you how to do that, and then we can come back. So GitHub, it's an online site that lets you host Git repositories. It's what I use all the time. Various people will tell you to use other things. Source control is Git, so most people here use. You can use other stuff. We have support for SVN and maybe most so this is what it looks like if you're logged in your VM. So if you're not logged in, you go to github.com. It'll show you this. So you put in your username, your email, and password, and you can sign up for free. And it complains because you haven't filled any of that in. But it'll dump you on a page like this that's completely empty. There might be some text over here about like, let's get you started by creating a project. If it's there, follow it. If it's not, don't worry too much. So if you want to make a new repository, you go to the screen button, you click it, and it goes, what's your name? So in this case, we're going to call it Mardi Gras. They want a short description. So this will show up in like the search page if someone's viewing all your projects. So you want this to be useful. Don't worry about like it being too short or whatever. So I'm just going to say party. Public or private. I don't think you guys will get the private option because you don't pay for GitHub. So just make it public. There's 2 ways to initialize it with a README. Yeah.
Students can apply for a free, the lowest tier of private.
Yeah, you get like 5 repos for 2 years or 4 years.
Yeah, so if you really want one, you can potentially do that, but
Yeah,
don't worry about it.
it's an RCOS project, when you make it private, you can't scrape it. So you have to make it public for us to see it. And so you could either hit create repository at this point, or you can have them initialize it with you. I never have them initialize it because I don't like it. So if you initialize it, it'll make a repository, and you can skip my next, actually no. So just initialize the repository. If you want and you know your language, you can choose it here, like if I'm using Bancha, and I know that I'll use Apache v2. So I guess it's short primer on software licenses. So if we're in source software's license vendor, or software license, there are a bajillion of them. There's like 200 or something. GitHub lists a couple of the more popular ones, right? And honestly, I can't tell you what these mean because it's all legal speaking. You can't take my legal advice, but I'm going to do it anyway. And this is recorded, wonderful. So Apache version 2 license is used by the Apache open source project. They're a big group of stuff. Basically what it is it says you can use your code for whatever you want, but if you submit code to us, we assume that you agree to put it under this license. That's what it boils down into a nutshell. So you can sell it, you can modify it, anything like Windows. I could go to Shirley and Jackson and sell it for $5 million, totally kosher. MIT license, and I think the BSD license, which really should be listed here and isn't, are pretty similar. You can just read them. They're like 2 paragraphs, they're not that hard. GPL is a little bit trickier. So it's the general public license, or GNU public license. GNU public license, so it's for the GNU project. A lot of your core components on Linux systems are licensed under this, like the Linux kernel. And it's basically it says that if you modify the code, you have to give back modifications. So it's not if you give back modifications, we want them licensed under this license, it's you're forced to release the modifications, right? So if I take this code down, like the Linux kernel, and I modify it for use in my embedded TV set that I'm selling to people, I have to release those modifications back to the Linux kernel. And there's some other stuff about how you can't link it into non-GPL projects and stuff like that, but basically it's just a stricter form of you have to give back the code you change. The Afrero GPL is sort of identical to it, except you have to give it back on an open port for server software, which is fun. So those are licenses in a nutshell, how to ignore, hit the create repository button. Have I lost anyone at this point? Everyone's still with me? You all think you can do it, or you're doing it as I speak? Okay. I have no offense at all if you literally just clone my actions right now with your laptops out. So this is what it does. It makes a few files. It makes git ignore. This tells Git what files to ignore. For Bancha, apparently the file types are like .xml and some PHP files and some other weird stuff. So it just tells them to ignore that. The license is what is licensed under. I chose the Apache v2 license. So here, if I can use my computer, I can't, is the Apache version 2 license. It is 191 lines long. It's by far the longest software license I've ever used. And this is a README. So now we're like, wow, I've got a repository. I should do that up to the RCOS and I should figure out how to use it. So we're going to do the RCOS part first because it's easier. So if you go down here, this is your download link. GitHub has this thing. Git has this thing called essentially you've got a server and you're pushing and pulling your code from the server. There's a couple ways to authenticate. If you want to read more about this, GitHub has great help pages. If you're ever lost on trying to do something in GitHub, go to their help pages. They got a page on it with screenshots and everything. Like I could have just given you the link to that rather than giving you this lecture, for this part of it at least, but I think you'd appreciate the lecture a little more. If you ever get confused, click the help button. Okay? So what it'll probably show for you guys, because you haven't set any SSH keys, is this. If it doesn't, click the HTTPS link. Copy this link, go to your copy of RCOS, or go to RCOS, not your copy of it. Go to proposals, go to skeleton, hit modify, go to repository, and just paste that link they gave you here. And then for the web address, it's just the address at the top of the bar when you're doing it. So in this case, I know for a fact that it's this, because GitHub is nice like that. If I wanted to find it, I would go here, I would copy this whole thing and paste it. Just like the version control system, if you're using Git, just hit save changes. Well, it seems to have worked. And then you can get out of that. I guess that doesn't work anymore. And that's it. So now we're pulling the repository. Hopefully, they'll pull at some point in the future. Doesn't say any reason for this, but that should pull. If it doesn't pull in like literally an hour, in reality a day, because it goes every half an hour. But if it doesn't pull in a day, just come talk to me. I'll figure out what's broken with it. Some people it was private or stuff. So this is it. So now you're wondering how you work with this. And so you copy this URL, you go to a new terminal, it's not my email. I like to keep it on my phone under a folder, but whatever, and you just type git clone this. And it'll pull down the Mardi Gras Git repository. By default, it'll pull it into a Mardi Gras folder. This is this. Got your Git repository. So this is going to be a quick introduction to Git. If you're actually interested in this, I recommend Git for computer scientists, but if you just Google Git source control, there's a homepage. If you go there, they've got a tutorial that's actually not horrible crap now. It was 5 years ago, but you can just go there. So this is Git. Git has really 3 levels, right? So you got your actual files, right? This is called the working directory. So my working directory, I've got license and readme.md. I actually have a .git ignore, but on Linux, files beginning with dot are ignored by default because of a bug when they wrote this a long time ago that's become a convention. So I got .git ignore. And there's a .git folder. And this is where Git stores all of its internal information. And so when you're using Git, there's just one person who uses like 3 commands. So first thing you do is you make some changes. So like, let's modify my README to be more interesting. I use Vim, you can use whatever you want. I like Mardi Gras and I can't scroll. Open up whatever text area you want, right? And so we've made a change. And so how do we know that we made a change? Well, there's one easy way. You type git status, it will tell you its status. So in this case, we're on branch master. This means, well, I'll skip that for now. Key point, this file changed. It can tell that it changed. The reason it can tell that it changed is it actually has a copy of readme.md buried in that Git folder. And so it compares that version with this version and goes, look, there's a difference. In fact, if you want to know the difference, you can type git diff. And it'll show you the difference. This is standard hash format, or perhaps standard Git hash format. I'm not actually sure. It's all regulated. So now we want to add our changes. And so there's actually 3 levels you get. There's the working directory, which can have changes like this in it. There's something called staging, and then there's the actual commits. So if I want to say, look, I like this change, it's great, I want to keep it, the first thing you do is you git add file. So in this case, readme.md. If we do a git status, they'll say, look, we're on branch master, we've got some changes, but these changes are marked that we want to commit them. And so if I modify, oh shoot, did my computer just end? Maybe. I don't know what happened there. But if we make another modification, oh no, my computer did just suspend. Sorry. This is why you should always do presentations with full battery, especially in this room, because there's no easy way to plug it in. I'm just going to drive my computer through that. But let this be a lesson to myself and doing this. Right? So if you make another change, you do a git status, it'll say, look, these are the changes to be committed. It's also called the stage. These are the changes in the local working directory that we haven't staged to be committed, but it knows they're there and it knows the 3 differences. If I don't want them, you can just do git checkout readme.md and it'll revert back to what you've staged. So this is great if you stage every time you make, oh, no. That works, right? Oh wait, well, I guess I don't know how to do that. I think it's git reset actually. Yeah, so that nukes your current changes. Right? So how this works is you make a change to the local working directory, you git add to stage it, and then if you want to commit it, and this essentially makes it permanent, you type git commit. Oh shoot, I guess I dropped my stages, whatever. Git add, commit. And this will give you a message. So this is like a log of the changes you make. In this case, I've updated the README. Classically, the format, at least in Linux kernel, is you have a short change list up here, and then you have longer description down here. I have my editor set up to actually wrap it. Well, it's supposed to wrap it at 80 columns. I guess it doesn't do it. Whatever. But that's how they're supposed to be. It'll probably be highlighting this. And if you commit it, you've committed your change. You do a git status. There's nothing. And so how Git works is we've got commits, and each commit points to its parent. So I'm going to go to a slightly prettier form of this. Can everyone see that? So this is the original commit that I made, right? In this case, it's the initial commit So it has no commit it's pointing to saying I came after this one, right? And it has some changes. It adds a README file, it adds license, it adds .gitignore, right? And then I added another change. I updated the README to put whatever dumb statement I said. And that README file points to this file. It says I'm a child of this one. And in this view, you also get some other information. So this is what GitHub has. Origin.master and origin/head. Head is essentially, I believe, shoot, does anyone here actually know intricacies of Git very well? Great, I can say whatever I want and it might be wrong. I think head points to the current stage and master points to the current branch. So essentially, if you make a staging change, head changes. No, that's totally not right. It's totally not right.
I also don't think it's.
Yeah, head and master point to the same thing and they both point to commits. And head does not point to stage at all. It points to the last commit in the current branch. And master is the current branch. Never mind, I'm confusing everyone. But that's how you make a commit. And then if you want to push it, you type git push. This should just work. In my case, it asks me for a password to GitHub and a username because I use HTTP. Password, I think I know this. And it pushes the changes, and you're basically done. Whoa, why did that happen? That's totally not supposed to be there. I think I just broke my own thing. So if you go here, you refresh it, there's another commit. If you go to skeleton version 2, it might even fetch that commit. No. Okay. So that's how you make Git commits. I might have butchered that a little. Is anyone completely lost? Is anyone partially lost and wants me to go through that again because they have a deep belief that that will fix everything? Okay. Well, I mean, that's all I wanted to show you. If you have questions about any of this stuff, just come down and I'll walk it through without wasting everyone's time. I mean, there's other people here who know what they're doing. Not that those who I don't point to don't, but I know these people are supposed to know what they're doing. So like Ben does, Matt does, David does, Roth does. I don't see any other official mentors floating around. I mean, that you know what you're doing sort of too. Okay. And I think that kid does. And that kid. Most people around, there are people around who can help you, or you can ask me. So that's it. If you have questions, come down here. Otherwise, do whatever you want. I'm done.